I gotta be honest. I was really surprised that Nintendo decided to do this to Pocket Pair because I thought we were over this. I thought we were over the idea of monopolizing over a concept. But Nintendo did it.
Nintendo is suing Pocket Pair over Palworld patents. And this is really interesting because, so what I thought was going to happen is that I didn't think anything was going to happen. Because I assumed that Palworld, like, you can look at Dragon Quest, for example. Here we go, right? And so you can see a lot of the copies of Dragon Quest ended up going directly into Pokemon, right? And these aren't really one-for-ones.
Yeah, because like it's super crazy where like there there's a question as to why Dragon Quest wasn't sued by Nintendo and Pokemon, but Palworld is, and it's really funny to where like even like the regular Zubat looks very similar to the regular bat feature, and even their dragon looks a lot like Gyarados. But as to why Dragon Quest as a franchise did not sue Pokemon, I don't know. But what gives Pokemon the right to sue Palworld when there's also Digimon that looks very similar and they're always compared? However, they decidedly pick Palworld because it's more popular.
But they're also not two-for-ones either. They're pretty close. They're ones for 1.1s. So they did copy a lot of this stuff. And then Digimon came out, so I assumed, like, yeah, they're probably not going to get in trouble for that. But here's what's really interesting about it. It is patent infringement, and it is about game mechanics themselves. So Palworld has put out a statement about this. They said yesterday,
how is it patent infringement? Like, is it a patent regarding, like, how you are... Is Nintendo actually trying to pin Palworld down because of the way you randomize the ability to throw balls and pick up Pokemon? Because if that's the case, is that any... I think that's like a little... That's far from being different from how you have to battle... You still have to battle certain monsters in Dragon Quest, like Monster, in order to capture them. Or decrease their likelihood of, like, doing things. And even Ni no Kuni. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, does the same thing to where you search the overworld for monsters, you fight them, you lower their HP, and then you use an item to capture them for your use, which is crazy.
Lawsuit was filed against our company for patent infringement. We've received this notice of lawsuit and will begin the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents that we are accused of infringed upon, and we have been notified on such details.
Yeah, because, like, of course, like, I'm going to sue you because you are copying the concept of using a ball to, like, isn't there, like, another game, Temtem? Temtem does the same thing to where instead of a ball to capture these monsters, you use cards. How is that any different? Like, that, Nintendo has made a lot of bangers over the years, but this is out of just pure upsetness of, like, their success.
Pocket Pair is a small indie company based out of Tokyo. Our goal as a company has always been to create fun games. We'll continue to pursue this goal because we know our games bring joy to millions of people. Palworld was a surprise success this year, both for gamers and for us. We're blown away by the amazing response, and we'll continue improving Palworld to make a game that we're proud of. It's truly unfortunate that we will be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit. However, we will do the utmost to our fans and ensure that indie game developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing creative ideas. We apologize to our fans and supporters for any worry or discomfort this news has caused. As always, thank you.
Yeah, like the fact that it's really poor behavior if they're targeting a small indie company when, sure, they earlier this year had a chance to play Palworld. It was super fun. They have a very fun 30-second loop mechanic compared to Pokemon. For me, I actually fell out of Pokemon because of the tone. I fell out of Pokemon because the tone of it was very childish, which is granted, and it's super crazy to where this is technically an adult take, a mature take on the concepts of Pokemon, and I like it better because it's, again, like, this is a game for older players, but for elementary, middle school kids, I recommend Pokemon as a whole. But then for older people who miss the nostalgia, who liked the mechanics and nostalgia of Pokemon, but I feel too old to play Pokemon, so Palworld is the next step to where there are much more mature options, like a gun or a sword, or sending rockets from a jet dragon to the monster.
You and your continued support of Palworld. Basically, what Nintendo is suing them for, there were a couple of patents that were linked. This is one Nintendo patent that is being used here, and it is the idea of throwing a ball and then...
I was right! Like, how is that super... That's super stupid, because, like, even Temtem has a similar concept of, like, well, you have to still go into battle with, the creatures in Temtem, or Ninokuni, Wrath of the White Witch, and even when you played Digimon Cyber Sleuth, you ran outside in an overworld for a chance for a random encounter, and then you fight them till they are low in HP, and then you have a chance to capture them. But the fact that you are infringing on the concept of throwing an item to catch, that's stupid.
Loot, or like, yeah, here we go. Process, and this is clearly the process algorithm of how this works, right? And so if you throw a ball and capture a monster, and then the ball, based off of different attributes of the monster, such as its current health, its level, the type of ball it is, and type of monster it is, if you do that, you, I think, according to Nintendo, are violating a patent. And so there you go right here. In first mode, an aiming direction in a virtual space is determined based on a second operation input, and the player character is caused to launch in the aiming direction an item that affects field character disposed on the field in virtual space based off of a third operation.
To be fair, that is super stupid to where, like, even in, like, the earlier days of Pokemon, we never had the ability to, like, throw balls at random. Because, like, even if you... That's... Oh, my God. So, you're telling me the capture mechanic is being infringed when that's no different than Persona 5, to where you would weaken, rather than throwing a ball to catch personas, you are beating them senselessly to convince them, like, hey, either you give me money or you're gonna get got. At this point, that's also targeting games like Persona 5 too, because Persona 5 has technically Pokemon mechanic of capturing new personas to add to your team, or collecting them. So, like, what's going on here?
Operation input. In a second mode, the aiming direction is determined based on second operational input, and the player character is caused to launch in the aiming direction a fighting character that fights based on the third operation input. So, in my opinion, I don't think this patent is going to hold up in court if this happens in America. This is in Japan, however. The reason why is that Pokemon is not really a unique idea, really. It's not. And it's just that basically the magic of Pokemon is simply a natural evolution of throwing a trap at something. Because if you look at, so basically a patent can be applied to things the more specific they are, right? So like the more specific something is, the higher the chances that you can patent it. I don't think that throwing a ball at something and then the thing going in the ball is specific enough for there to be a patent for it, because too much of this behavior mirrors natural human hunting behavior. So it's like, can you patent natural human hunting behavior? No, you can't. And so, yeah. The NAC MPG generator.
I didn't know about that. That's super crazy.
The public perception doesn't matter. Nobody cares about this. If the public perception was bad, like, do you really think that the public cares about it? You think the public is going to read this and even understand?
Yeah, like, at a first glance, the majority of the public will hear, like, oh, either, at first glance, the population would be like, oh, Pokemon is right in suing them. Good for them because they look too similar. But at the same time, there's another part of the population where if you use your brain to look at the T's and I's, they're either not much different, or it's like as been said, shameful.
Understand what the fuck this is? Fuck no, absolutely not. No, they have no idea about any of this. They have no idea, and so nobody cares about this. Like, people are going to Palworld. No matter.
Who cares about, like, if they copy the same mechanics? If it's a good game, you're gonna, like, take inspiration by it. You're not going to sue McDonald's if you make a good burger. You're not going to get sued by McDonald's if you make a good burger. You're not going to get sued by Burger King for making a really good milkshake. That's the weirdest thing, right? You're not going to get sued by IHOP by making a really good pancake. They don't have a patent over the idea.
No matter what. So I don't think that there's going to be any sort of an impact.
If you're gonna be this upset about like Palworld, are you gonna start suing Monster Hunter Worlds? No, not Monster Hunter World. Are you gonna sue Monster Hunter? There's a Monster Hunter game that involves the ability to capture other monsters, and are you gonna sue them for that? Like the idea of trapping monsters with Thing, and you get the benefit of having them on your side, one way or the other. But it's crazy
that this is going to have on Palworld in terms of their like public image. I think that all they really have to worry about is losing money or having to pay Nintendo a lot of money or getting shut down, right? And so yeah, public perception might go against Nintendo more than Palworld. I think that it will, because the truth is that Palworld, like Nintendo, the idea of Pokemon. What element of Pokemon does not exist in the real world?
What element of Pokemon does not exist in the real world? Technology doesn't exist. The monsters walking around doesn't exist. Yeah, the idea is not owned by Nintendo. The idea of capturing monsters for your ability to like compete with them is not a new thing. Like it is as old as times, from back in the day when Romans captured chickens for cockfights, capturing dogs for dog fights, and capturing animals for animal fights is essentially the same thing as Pokemon capturing other Pokemon to fight them for a competition and to show the world who is the best breeder of Pokemon with these titanically godlike monsters. Like, it's super crazy. Patent forced developers to be more creative in their creation, not just copy pasta. Yeah, it's not Pocket Pair. Palworld is not just copying and pasting the concepts, running around. It's a mission. It's a gumbo pot of shooter aspects with open world like tower building, and you don't have to capture these Palworlds ultimately. I don't think there's technically there is going to be a very difficult run to where you can definitely capture monsters for the sake of collecting. However, you can go to these tower gyms or the oil rig, and you can technically do a run on just your weapons alone with no use of your pals other than just transportation. But again, like the concepts of like capturing Pokemon, capturing pals is not really an owned idea. Like you can't just. It's crazy.
What element of it? The Pokeballs? Traps.
Yeah, like
people have tons of different traps. They have bola traps. They have obviously like you can raise Pokemon as well, and so same as you can raise animals. You have all kinds of other traps, like a bear trap, all kinds of traps, like a glue trap.
Is it just the ball that's being infringement? Because sure, if you change the balls for a different shaped item, it doesn't change the fact that they're very two different games. This is a more mature take on the concepts of like Pokemon. And it's basically like it should be flattering that like, wow, like you like our game, so you made a game that's evolved of our concept. Thank you. But like pet battles is no different. Pet battles happen in Dragon Quest Monsters. Pet battles happen in Temtem, in Wrath, in Ni no Kuni. Like I mentioned, it's crazy.
Millions
crazy
of
reach.
Types of traps. Gem badges. I mean, I feel like there's a million different types of badge systems, etc.
Yeah, the reward
badge
systems.
Systems that are associated with competency of using an animal. Like there are things for horses, and there's also things for dogs. There's a lasso. Yeah, think of a lasso too. So I don't think that that's unique.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things unique about the whole, like, idea of you going into a world, and there's monsters all around. It's an open world game where you can walk around and just capture monsters. You can build your base like Valheim. You can fight certain like challenge rooms, which are the dungeons or the boss rooms, and the gym badges are essentially equivalent to achievements, right? Like you complete. It's the equivalence of like completing all 8 badges is like getting a platinum trophy, and each new achievement you make adds up to your goal. Or you don't have to like do that. There's a lot of things you can and can't do. It's stupid and crazy for me.
Throwing a fish to catch a fish? Yeah, there you go. It's like bait, exactly. Evolution of Pokemon? I mean, evolution is a fundamental concept. It's a fundamental human, like, scientific understanding. And I think that evolutions in animals is perceived in all kinds of things. Like, even inside of Tolkien, for example, there is a degree of evolution between the Uruk-hai and the orcs, for example. Pulling my bike out of my backpack? Okay, that one doesn't happen in real life yet. As kids are going around the world without a care in the world, they age 12, battling Pokemon. Yeah, well, that is a little bit different. And so, yeah, basically, they're going to patent the idea that a caterpillar evolves into a butterfly.
You're gonna patent the idea of Caterpie turns into a butterfly. The Butterfree, that's really funny. You're gonna patent the idea of a puppy evolving into a dog. Might as well sue Digimon for patenting a little dinosaur of Agumon transforming into a human, or patent the idea of a little Digimon Agumon turning into like a bigger dinosaur, but he got a metal arm. It's super crazy, it's super stupid. Like the reach of which this lawsuit is gonna be done is crazy. It's stupid.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, go ahead, Nintendo. That makes a lot of sense. And so anyway, you have animals that fight each other, the affinity system. I think the affinity system is something that is...
Yeah, the affinity system is nothing new. It's the equivalence of just a rock, paper, scissors system. Like, there's always going to be a triangle of power. And one thing is always going to be weak against another. And one thing's always going to be stronger against a different thing, respectfully, so it's nothing new.
Experienced in real life too. Like, for example, like there are different animals that fight each other. Now, the elemental component of it is unique, but it's not really that special, right? It's like a fireball versus an ice wall, right? I mean, like, elemental components is not really unique either. And so you have dog fighting, you've got cockfighting, you've got all kinds of animals.
I mentioned that, yeah.
That kill each other all the time for entertainment and just for sport. So whenever you really break down what is Pokemon, Pokemon is really a G-rated version of some pretty barbaric shit that we used to do in real life.
Yeah, because it even becomes like to the most extreme idea of like, hey, there once upon a time we had the Colosseum in the Romans. From the ancient times, Romans have captured dogs for dog fights. They have captured chickens for cockfights, and they've even captured slaves of humans from war for the Colosseum. Gladiatorial battles. And gladiatorial battles don't have to be human to human, but that is. We've had human against bears, against lions, and we've even had animals against animals. It's a Colosseum. It's a gladiatorial battle between monsters, and that's nothing new. Eat animals like bullfights. The losing cow gets eaten, stuff like that. The losing pig gets eaten, stuff like that.
Eat Taurus. So that's not true. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, and even bugs, exactly. So basically still do. Yeah,
bug fights even? Oh my god. Like, thank you for mentioning that.
It's not as common nowadays, right? And, exactly. In Springfield, Ohio, they eat Meowth.
Meowth?
Good one. Real good
nice.
One. And so anyway, so Bucky, obviously one of the CMs from Palworld, has also responded to this. They showed a couple of other things. We'll go ahead and read some of the replies and the comments about this from the audience. Let's see here. Thank you to all of our fans and kind words and messages. Quinn saying, fuck Nintendo. Release a trailer. Most people overlook it, including Nintendo. Not a big deal. Palworld becomes enormous international success. Nintendo...
Yeah, like, that actually kind of funny to where Nintendo on release, Nintendo like overlooked it, and if you had a problem with it to begin with, from the very beginning, you would have stopped before it got released. You had the chance from the moment the game got from the moment that the trailer of the game got released. Nintendo had every chance to talk with their company. You had other people who could have had problems talk about it before release. But now that it's become a success and getting crazy that the game using monster taming features can be more popular than Pokemon, like file a lawsuit. Of course, that makes sense when the IP is making a whole lot of money.
Is their ship to a game using monster taming features that could be more popular than Pokemon? Files lawsuit seems legit. They might sue the zoo too, since the animals seem to look like Pokemon.
At this point, like, might as well do that to the zoo.
Suing a zoo for having animals that look too much like their Pokemon isn't really out of the question. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is Nintendo we're talking about here. So Pikachu AK-47, that's great.
Pikachu.
And, Nintendo can't keep getting away with this bullying shit. I think that a lot of people are very tired of Nintendo exercising their intellectual property rights in a way that seems to be draconian and oppressive and, at the end of the day, consumer unfriendly.
It feels like Monopoly because, like, it almost feels like if you make anything similar, you have to work super hard to make sure that your IP of a monster taming system looks extremely different from Pokemon. Otherwise, if you rattle the cage enough times, if the nail is stuck out long enough, far up enough, then you're going to get slammed because, again, the idea of a monster taming system is nothing new. We have monster tamers. We have, there was an old IP called Monster Tamers, I think? No, not Monster. I keep thinking the wrong one. It was Monster Rancher, I think. Yeah, Monster Rancher is a series of capturing monsters using stone slabs, and then you release them from the slab to, like, have monsters fighting against each other. You have Temtem, that is basically a Pokemon game as well. The art style is very different from Pokemon. It's a Pokemon style MMO. Yeah, and that's not getting a lawsuit. You have Monster, what is it?
This is one thing that I've said before about intellectual property in general, is that I think that when intellectual property and patents serve as a inhibitor to innovation, they are now no longer ethical to be morally upheld. And I think that, like, the Nemesis system is a good example of that. You can have, like, different song IPs, etc. I think that basically the people that own IP have too many rights of that IP in Western culture. I don't like it. So basically, I think that when a person puts something out there to the public, you give away a certain degree of ownership of what that thing is by putting it out to the public and creating it as a product. Like, when a person buys something, there needs to be some degree of consideration that they earn. And I think that if somebody wants to change things, and again, I want to make sure this is very, very clear, Palworld is not getting sued because of the images.
That is super crazy because, like, yeah, Power is being sued because of the mechanic. And why are you... It's crazy for the idea of them being sued for the mechanic of, like, throwing a ball and the way you throw a ball to capture a monster and the rate of difficulty of capturing a monster. That's gauging the difficulty of how you capture a monster taming and gauging the difficulty of, like, hey, this monster is super high in level. It is a level 50 monster when the character level is 55. You're trying to capture a monster that's close to your player level, so of course it's going to be very difficult for you to, like, capture this because it's a challenge rating. It's a sliding scale of a challenge rating, and, like, what's going on here? Like, the fact it's
like the Palworld versus Pokemon comparisons. This is not.
It's over mechanics,
which is crazy. So it's actually not, which is what I said wasn't going to happen, because I was like, well, Digimon has the same stuff.
Yeah, because again, like, if you're going to be suing over mechanics, might as well, like, sue Temtem because it's a Pokemon styled MMO. but it has the concepts of like weakening a monster and then using a card to capture it.
What do you think, right? I mean, look at this. I mean, this is like, it's absolutely shameless, but this is actually not what they're getting sued for. Lucario is pretty damning. Yeah, that's Lucario and Anubis. That's the law in Japan. If they don't lose their IP, they lose it. Yeah, I just don't care about the law in Japan. I don't live in Japan. So yeah, and I think their law is wrong. Like they have a shitty law. If everyone said if Nintendo had anything, they would sue them. Now they sued Palworld and everyone is mad. Everyone poked at Nintendo to take action just because they thought they couldn't do anything. I think that if Nintendo... So here's the problem, is that you're looking at... So you're talking about two different things, right? The first thing you're talking about is the public perception. I don't think that anybody's perception of Palworld is going to be worse now that Nintendo has sued them. Nobody is like, oh wow, I loved Palworld, but now that Nintendo sued them, I hate Palworld now.
Yeah, because if anything else, the number one question people are asking is not, oh, I'm going to hate... The conclusion isn't, oh, because they're getting sued, I'm going to stop playing their game. That's not the case. The problem is, why are you suing something? And there's a group of the public perception that understands that Palworld is not Pokemon. However, like, it's crazy to where the basis of the lawsuit is crazy because a lot of it doesn't really add up. Like, what are you doing here, boss?
No, that's just not what I think is going to happen. I don't think that anybody is thinking like this. So what we're really talking about is, like, did they copy the characters? I think that they kind of did.
They kind of did, but like some of the characters look also very similar to things in Dragon Quest. It looks a little similar in Digimon, except you have a mechanical arm for a dinosaur. But that's like that's again the same concept. Like, is McDonald's going to sue Burger King because their burgers all look a little similar? Not really.
But the problem is that Pokemon copied Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are you going to go and say, oh, Pokemon, let's respect the IP of Pokemon, when Dragon Quest used a lot of the same models as well? And also, you have a lot of these images here. Wow, It's a caterpillar. Is anybody making a cartoon caterpillar? It's a rat with a horn.
Who has the IP of a golem that comes from the ground even? Who has the IP of a pterodactyl? Who has the IP of a dog? Nobody. But who's gonna sue them for like copying the concept of a dog in art form? Nobody.
On its head. Like, is it really that crazy that this happened? You have the Chinese dragon, and then Gyarados is like a more, like Japanese version.
Lantern.
So yeah, are people really going to respect this or care about this? I don't really think so. You just made the point Nintendo can't sue over art design. They don't have a patent on art design. That's not why Palworld is being sued. Exactly. And so that's what I'm really trying to get at, is that this is not what Palworld is getting sued for. Palworld is getting sued for patents on game mechanics.
Yeah, mechanics is like the biggest issue that they're being sued over. But it is absolutely delulu because it's not a one-for-one like copy. It's not for one for one.
What's happening. So anyway, I'll go ahead and I'll look at a few of these here, and we've got right here, filed a patent infringement lawsuit, Tokyo District Court against Pocket Pair. Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringement of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself. And so let's see if we can find any more of these, of like different patents that were specifically done.
Is the patent regarding just how you throw a ball and, hey, I have a chance of capturing you after 3 shakes? Like, no, that's silly.
Oh, this is
go home.
That was already made. We don't need to see a whole lot more else besides that. We'll read the actual Nintendo post here. Oh, that's literally it. So yeah, Nintendo doesn't have to win. They probably saw Palworld fall off and thought it was a good time to strike with bullshit lawsuits and have.
But the game, how is the game falling off no different from how Nintendo's falling off? Because people come and go from Pokemon just as often, which is crazy. Because when you think about it as a whole, for me an example, I fell off of Pokemon because I wanted to play other games. some people fall off from Palworld because they want to play other games. Like that's not a sign that a game is falling off. That's just a sign of people having different interests. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Have their own version of the game in the works now to sell. Well, here's my perspective on it. I played Palworld, and I thought it was a great game. I really liked Palworld. Like, you guys might not know this, but I actually, I played it a lot off stream, and all of my pals are level 55. Like, I have all, like, max level armor.
Yeah, like, for me, I have a similar situation where, like, all the pals that I wanted to have is at 55, if not more. But the problem becomes to where I have to start... It became tedious for me when what mattered is how I bred my pals. There's now a mechanic to breed your pals to where everyone can potentially have the nocturnal ability so that they can work 24/7. And that's crazy cool, crazy fun, but that's a level of gameplay that I'm not sure I have the time commitment for. Now, once they have another update for a new area within Palworld, I will probably re-download the game and play that new patch to its completion. But again, like, it's really crazy to where, like, despite all that, like, what's the argument here? Because for a game to fall off, the game will fall off because people have other things to do.
And everything. And I never killed some of the end bosses because because I wanted to do it on stream. But I put, like, a tremendous amount of hours into it. Prove it. I can log on just for a minute. Maybe
let me see what you got.
But either way, I don't want to do it right this minute. Max is 55 now. Yes, it is. My character is 55 and everything like that's done. I completely filled out, like, I didn't fill out every Pokedex option, but I've done pretty much every single one of them. So yeah, you could argue that the way that you catch a PAL is extremely close to the way that you catch a Pokemon.
It is really close, but
that is what they're arguing.
Yeah, like, you're arguing for the game mechanic.
Thing that they are arguing. Here's the status in Japan. It was registered in 2023. Yes, that is literally what they are arguing. That's where we're at. And so, why is the person shit? Yeah, and it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit too. I do. I think that it's complete bullshit. Because the idea of catching something like this, too much of what throwing a Pokeball at something does, too much of it is basic human intuition. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're going to trap an animal, you would want to make sure that the animal is tired or somehow exhausted, right? It's beaten. Like, the animal is in one way or another beaten. It's out of stamina, it's out of health, it's out of energy, it's out of something. And then you throw an object at that animal, and the object that you throw at the animal has a chance of capturing the animal that probably has a variable ratio based off of your proximity to the animal. Like, if you throw it and you're right next to it, it's going to be easier than if you throw it and you're 50 feet away. Big fucking surprise. This is, yes, cavemen figured all of the... Cavemen invented effectively what are Pokeballs. Nintendo just changed the vocabulary.
Yeah.
So there's nothing... I'm trying to think about, is there anything... And there are even types of traps, too. Like, for example, wood traps probably don't work as well as steel traps do whenever you're trying to capture a bear.
Probably.
So, yeah, you're stretching logic here?
Well, we have to stretch logic because they're stretching... By stretching... If you're stretching the logic of how you can change... If you're stretching the logic of what capturing another monster would look like, then that's what Nintendo is doing. They're stretching what they can use as a reason for the lawsuit. And this entire lawsuit to Pocket Pair is based on the mechanic of capturing the monster. And you almost have no reason to miss a monster in Pokemon because you're in a isolated scene just to capture the monster, versus the idea of Palworld to where you're in the middle of combat and you're in the middle of a combat with the monster along with your pal, and you still have the chance of missing when you toss the ball. Like, they're getting the lawsuit is based on the idea of you throwing an object to capture a monster. Okay, how about this? What if they change that to you digging a hole and you burying the trap corresponding to how difficult the monster is? Now Capcom has reason to sue to Pocket Pair, but Capcom's not going to sue because Capcom's not going to care. Capcom is going to be like, yo, your shit's cool, good job. but Nintendo is so very protective of their IP and sales, because corporate cares about sales, that they're stretching logic in order to try and sue Pocket Pair.
No, I'm not. Am I? I don't really think so. I don't think so. Yeah, I really don't think so. I actually think that, so basically a patent, as I said before, is more valid the more specific it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with this is that you could, through natural intuition of human behavior, intuit the design of the way a Pokeball would work. And also, keep in mind, being inspired by something does not mean that you are automatically wrong, or you've automatically committed copyright infringement. Overthinking about Pokeballs? The 3 ticks the balls have before capture is very specific to Pokemon?
No! I would say, like...
That's actually a really great point.
It is a good point, but again, like, that is still stretching this reality, because the 3 ticks are... The copyrighting the 3 ticks is no different than you... The concept of the 3 ticks indicates the chances of whether or not you can capture this monster. Much like how when you don't even need that counter. It's like that's providing the 3 ticks. The 3 ticks is like a courtesy call to where if you have 3 dices on 3 successes, then you capture a monster. It's kind of like you roll a dice. Okay, you succeed the first attempt. You succeed the second attempt. You succeed the third attempt, or you just outright win. And so it's equivalent to where if you throw a ball, if you throw a if you throw a Pokeball at a Mew, you have these many dices to just roll for a chance to capture the monster. But if you throw a Master Ball, forget the dice. You throw a Master Ball at a Mew, you automatically catch it. But if you throw an Ultra Ball, okay, maybe the difficulty still raises, but you have a high... It's a challenge rating that's really high, but there's an opportunity. And, like, the 3 ticks is a display of opportunity to capture this thing.
You bring up a really good point. That's really smart. Yeah, you're right about that. That's a great point.
It's stretching.
So, you should work for Nintendo. Yeah, that's a great example. And by the way, I want to make one thing very clear. I think it's very evident that Palworld intentionally copied Pokemon.
Because they have a good idea.
And it's undeniable that they shamelessly copied Pokemon. Absolutely they did. I can't imagine the amount of mental gymnastics you'd have to go through to say otherwise. It's just that I don't think that the way that they captured it and the way that they copied it is different enough to where Pokemon has
it's not different
to say
enough.
You're not allowed to do this, when Pokemon copied other things from other people as well, like Dragon Quest. So why is it that Pokemon isn't getting sued? So Pokemon owns something that they stole? What the fuck are we talking about? This is ridiculous.
What is the conversation here?
It's outrageous. Use the word inspired. Yeah. They should have made the cube up to 4 ticks. Yeah. Why do you think they sued now? Do you want to know the real reason why I think they sued? It's probably because it took them a long time to build a case.
Yeah.
To set something.
You have to stretch reality to give them the opportunity to sue.
Like, for example, the Johnny Depp lawsuit, right? Like, that didn't happen at that same year.
It doesn't happen overnight.
That was something that happened years and years in the past. And people are looking back on it and figuring it out like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? So in many cases, that trial took 2+ years, exactly. And that's between 2 people, right? So think about between 2 companies. That's going to be super, super complicated, right? Especially with how complex Japanese copyright law and
they're so specific to the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And you have to stretch the vocabulary long enough to where somebody wins because of a vocabulary technicality.
I think also, this is my opinion about it. I want Nintendo to lose. I'm going to say it. I want them to lose.
That is a good idea, because if Nintendo loses, then that gives other people permission to have creative expression, because they've had Pokemon has had a monopoly for concepts related to it for the longest time. And like if you're gonna the fact that they're attempting this lawsuit based on a simple mechanic is very crazy. It's the same way of you being sued because of the way you walk, from being sued for the way you cook your burgers, to how you eat, to how you sleep. That is just crazy. It's like the stretching of reality to come to the conclusion of, hey, let's sue them because of they're copying our mechanic. Very crazy.
Because I hate the fact that companies are copywriting these broad ideas and hamstringing and effectively suppressing innovation in video games.
Yeah, like...
I want them to lose. Facts, Nintendo is anti-consumer? Exactly. And I don't think that Nintendo has any sort of, like, moral high ground to say that, like, Pokemon is some sort of, like, unique, amazing, perfect thing that you can't have a Pokeball, when a Pokeball in almost every single function acts in the same way that real life things act as well, like a trap. So yeah, I do want to see Nintendo lose this, and I want to see the precedent of Nintendo losing this be used as an argument for why other patents on video game mechanics need to
they should be made an example that you can't just bully people out of creativity, to bully people out of, like, opportunities, because it ruins competition, and competition perpetually fuels innovation. But if you constantly have the monopoly of, like, hey, this is ours, you can't copy it, you can be inspired, but you can't outsail us. Like, that's crazy.
So be relinquished. I think that these are, again, suppressive. I think that they are, at the end of the day, not in the best interest of the customer, and they hurt people. So yeah, I don't know about hurt people, but they hurt the game. They hurt games in general. Do you think
it hurts opportunities?
Do I think Nintendo will lose? Guys,
would they lose? I would argue that they would lose. I would say they lose the public opinion, but they're gonna pay up. They have enough money to pay for any losses. They have enough money. Nintendo will have enough money to pay for the loss. However, they will lose public opinion.
None of us here know fucking anything about Japanese international, like, IP law. We don't know anything about this. How the fuck do we know?
The fact that we're upset about what Nintendo is doing shows that there's a chance of them losing the public opinion, but in terms of the actual law, we don't know, because we don't live in Japan. I don't live in Japan. I want to. I don't live in Japan to understand the politics and the ink and paper that comes with making a franchise. I don't understand that, but I do know the public opinion is severe, and the public opinion feels like, hey, maybe you don't have a case, dude.
I have no idea. I hope they lose. So yeah, they hurt innovation. Yeah, so I mean, like, I really cannot even begin to say what's going to happen. The Nemesis system would be so badass on other games. Yeah, and the fact that Warner Brothers has a copyright on it, or a patent on it, is outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. So yeah,
I never knew about the.
Loses, and I hope this
I never knew about the Nemesis system. So if on my free time, I'll probably look it up and see, like, what's it all about.
Example for everything else. But yeah, massive fucking L for Nintendo. Patents for game mechanics are bullshit. It's why we don't have more games with this. Now Nintendo come out saying you can't catch monsters in a ball. What a ridiculous fucking thing to say. And by the way, all patents.
Yeah, that is crazy. It is super ridiculous to say, but that's the world we live in. People often stretch logic if it means getting an edge and claiming what's ours. If we feel like a thing belongs to us, we will stretch logic and stretch reality to make it happen, or die trying by rolling a D100 and seeing what happens.
And all of this stuff is created by the government. Like, Nintendo isn't shutting down Pocket Pair. The government is. It's not like when, there's a Melee tournament that happens, Nintendo sends out, like, assassins to go shoot the people that are making the Melee tournament. No, they tell the government to do it, and then the government does it on the behalf of Nintendo. And what I think is we should tell the government, stop fucking listening to this shit. That's what I think. I think that IP law and people's ownership over things that they spend their money on is way too restrictive, and I think that people should have more of a right to do what they want with things that they spend their own money on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it. The law is outdated as fuck. It's not that it's outdated, it's just stacked in a position. The law is stacked in favor of the incumbent corporations maintaining their status quo.
And if you keep the corporations happy, that helps the system, and the system is a huge on capitalism. So if you put enough money into your biggest hands, they would surely make money regardless of their standings.
Because they're the ones that are impacting the law. That's the reason why. Seriously, by Palworld, if it gets taken down, I don't know. I was thinking I might play it today for, maybe the last time ever. Dragon Age,
could be my last time.
Twitter. Yeah, I might look at that a bit. That's why there's no serious competitor for Call of Duty or Battlefield. The patents on how aiming and firing in the game is coded heavily enforced, and almost other devs have no workarounds or solutions that aren't subpar. Yeah.
Is it enforced?
Does Nintendo even have any ideas for the new console? Yeah, probably they're going to make a Nintendo Switch, and it's going to be called the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's going to look like the Steam Deck. That's
behind the door.
It's going to be crazy. So yeah, anyway, these fucking software companies are going all in on software patents.
Software patents, it's
disgusting. Nobody in software likes the idea of software patents, but it seems like all powerful investors have turned Nintendo and other companies into patent machines.
Your laundry's done.
Thank you.
They'll patent air and water next.
Yeah, that's super crazy, just the idea, because for them to patent the idea of how you make things is, again, a stretch of reality, a stretch of Delulu.
There's a funny thing about patenting water and Nestle that's really, really funny. Super funny about that. Really funny story. Man.
Is it?
Yeah. We want to own the rain? I guess so, right? Nestle Waters.
At this point, yeah.
It's nuts. Extremely exploitative, going to be a huge crisis in the future when nobody can make software except for a handful of large conglomerates. That's right. Why are there no bootstrap startup companies? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you patented the mouse, the keyboard, and if anything else. And the if-else statements, you fucknuts. Yeah, there you go. It's very, very obnoxious. Nintendo's going to get hate from gamers if they start patenting game mechanics like that. The problem is that I don't hate from gamers. Do you think Nintendo cares about hate from gamers? Absolutely
Nintendo
not.
doesn't care.
They wouldn't be shutting down
don't care.
Like, Smash Brothers tournaments. They don't care about that at all. All they care about is making money and protecting their brand.
And they feel it's protecting their brand, and if it doesn't meet the code even to the minute details, even to the very T's and I's, then that's what it is. Yeah, like seeing how well Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sold despite how buggy it was, it's clear that they have no self-respect as a consumer. Many people make it their personality to like Nintendo. People won't hold them accountable for shit. They somehow managed to successfully sell millions of copies of the Tears of the Kingdom for $70. A game I reminded 80% a clone of Breath of the Wild, runs on PlayStation 3 era tech. Well, that PlayStation 3 era tech makes sense because it's based on the machinery of the Switch. You can't really avoid that. 80% of Breath of the Wild, I mean, it's in the same world. It's not like you're being sent to another part of the grandscape of Hyrule. It's a sequel to what's happening within Palworld as it is, but definitely the repetitiveness of going to the shrines, collect these, turn off these 4 things before you fight the boss. Repetitive for 4 to 5 times is definitely unnecessary for sure. Instead of current down and show justify the price point and paywalls, exclusive things behind amiibos.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't even matter. Yeah, it doesn't want to affect Nintendo at all. No, the problem is the fact that it's law. Yeah, that's it. Hate from gamers. Some people make their personality to like Nintendo. Yeah, also, like, people aren't going to care about this. They're just going to buy the next Pokemon game.
They would.
If Pokemon comes out with a game that's as good as Palworld, everybody will play it. Nobody really cares about this. Like, it's not
they would blink.
Nobody's going to change their behavior because of this. They might think Nintendo is stupid for it, but they're not going to actually stop buying Nintendo products because of this. That's crazy. Of course not. So yeah, Nintendo hasn't ever cared about players. I think.
I mean, they do to an extent.
I love Nintendo.
They care them
the way
to
that
an
they
extent.
enforce their copyrights and the way that they enforce their intellectual property laws.
Like, copyright from Japan is very just rough in general. Because, case in point, even when I was playing Star Ocean to The Last Hope for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, 4, they have such heavy copyrights that they will basically ruins a game's video's visibility. Like, even another case in point is like when Japan had issues regarding blocking certain spoilers for Persona 5. Persona 5 was very like rickety rockety on copyright strikes from a lot of people because the company doesn't believe that they believe streaming the game will ruin people's experiences with Persona 5. But the reality is streaming is a avenue of free advertisements. And if you feel like you don't want to put in your 70 hours, then you'll watch somebody else put in theirs. And that's a free advertisement for putting attention onto the franchise. But again, it's a whole monopoly thing. Like, they're so protective of all their IPs that they feel like any competition outside of Japan will hurt them. When the reality is, competition breeds evolution. And it's a problem. It's a really huge problem.